Hey everybody, it's time for another sprint zone. This one's for 3:15, and it's a good party. As we can see, we have some of the stars of the TFR in the rear, Ian there, Isla on her new bike, and we had newcomer Carlos just off the back there for a while. So it's a little bit before the actual sprint zone start, but it'll give me a chance to showcase some of those people who don't actually get a lot of camera time. So we've got Ian there on the new fast bike, climbing bike. We expect good things out of her. We see Mike Wida, Tony, and his new kit from his new team. Looks like Matthew Michaels off there in the bike lane. So some of us took the bike lane, some of us didn't. I prefer the bike lane. They built it for us. I won't ramble on about that one. Enough said. So there's Tony's new kit. Looks good. We've got Joel right in front of him, also in the blue. Hasn't been out in a while. And look at the trailing posse. Mike Weida looking strong here. He had been showing very strong last year, and he's coming out early in the season, and I expect to see really good things from him once his form comes on. So looking way, way, way in the back, we see newcomer Carlos from the Spradley Bar team that has been disbanded coming to join us, maybe wanting to work on his fitness to get it ready for the senior games this year. Up front, it looks like strong men are all around. We've got Tony directly in front of me in his new kit. We've got Joel, who hasn't been around in a while. We've got Byron, of course, in that yellow. In front of him, it looked like Jared up there. Dean Davis, who we haven't seen in a while. And, of course, Greg Kuchta wearing I don't know what. You know, when I do these videos, I expect to see people in certain kit, and that kit right there is something I don't normally see Greg in. But he's got new wheels on his gravel bike, and he's testing that puppy out to see how it will play with the big men, and it will indeed be tested today. Matthew Michaels, fresh, wearing the old school kit, looking to perhaps better some of his performances from the previous weeks. We can see everybody's in pretty good form, and there's Byron giving the thumbs up, and I always like to ask if the camera's on, and that's what that was in response to. So we got Jared, who's coming from Wyoming. He's going to be moving back down to Fort Collins, so he's joining the crew for at least one adventure. Looking forward to seeing his performances more regularly here. But he is not afraid of any of the wind up front. So I think there was some cautioning here because people were beginning to ram and thump a little bit early. So we wanted to make certain that everything was calm because there will be plenty time for people to swing their whatever around and show everybody what they have. We can see the pecking order where people try to position themselves where they think they belong. Confident people like Dean and Matthew in the middle, not so confident people way at the back. But I suggest that they need to work on their confidence a little bit, trying to get up a little further, not in front of me, of course, might better their chances to have a little more participation and get some camera time. So we're crossing the beginning of the sprint zone start from County Road 5, and there was a rider just ahead of us who was James Stevens. Looks like he's coming down from the TTH ride and decided to join us, perhaps after some of their melee. We got Jared and Byron up front. Everybody's in tow. The pace is reasonable. Wattage is reasonable. And I should mention that Matthew has thrown me his data for heart rate and power, so I've got that labeled on the screen along with mine. And I will say that my heart rate is like way off, so I don't even look at it as far as numbers, but for a relative thing, that's okay. So early on, big dogs, Byron and Jared, the young buck, looking to prove themselves out in the front, keeping good tempo. And you can see the wattage that I'm throwing out like 2 to 300 here. I looked for a second there. Matthew was also. So this little grade, it is not easy. But I could overhear the conversation where Byron was counseling Jared on we keep it chill for a little while before the game is afoot because of the corners here. And later on in the season, we may ramp it up a little bit more, but for now, this is probably good. We don't want to have any unforeseen accidents so early. got Tony here, so I know Tony doesn't plan to participate. He said something about a sinus infection or something like that. But for now, he is up ramming and thumping. Like, and that's pretty brave. If I had any kind of illness, I'd be home because I don't have that kind of fortitude. It doesn't mean that much to me. I'd much be rather watching Discovery, Star Trek, or catching up on my latest soap operas. But it's cool to see him out here, even though he's a little under the weather. Nice form here. Everybody's 2x2 as the big dogs Byron and the young buck Jared lead us into the first corners. At this point, I'm feeling pretty comfortable, and you never know what's going to happen when you have new people on your ride. They always seem to color the ride, and this is what makes bicycle racing so interesting. Different people show up every time, and if you've got different people that don't have tactics or new tactics or teams with different tactics, you never know what to expect, and that's what I really enjoy about this. There's some of the countryside as we whiz by, and we look up front. Indeed, Byron's still on his gravel bike, and we've got Jared there leading us into the first corner. So the game is almost afoot. We take a quick loop around. We see everybody back there. We got Mike Weed like up front, and he's normally not this far, but perhaps he's taken some of my words to heart and is putting himself in a better position and able to, survive this one and maybe even participate in taking some of the wind. So looking back here, we got Matthew Michaels. He was worried about not getting a lot of camera time because, well, you'll see in a few minutes, but I wanted to give him something early here so that I can talk about him and he can say something like to his parents that he actually made it because his parents are avid viewers of this podcast. Anyway, so Matthew makes a strong move here. Not a serious attack, but kind of just rides off the front. And Jared is quick to cover this one. I was not in the position to do this at this point, but I thought to myself, oh, we have to keep this in check. If it was only Matthew up the road, super dangerous, but we can't have Jared and Matthew up the road. And you can see the sense of urgency as my wattage tips a bit above 500, just trying to keep those people in tow. At this point, I'm pretty much spent. I know Baron is back there, so there's no need for me to expend more energy when I know there are big engines back there. And as you can see, they haven't gotten too far, and the gap is reasonable. If it was only Matthew up there, it wouldn't be so bad at this point, but we've got a problem here in the sense of urgency. So I slot back a little further than I want, and it is difficult for me to recover after that little effort that I put in. Byron is drilling it up there. We got Greg with the new wheels on the gravel bike. We got Dean, who hasn't been around in a long time, and Marcelo, who has been really flexing hard the last couple of weeks. And he is now, and I will officially say this, a GC man. Well done, Marcelo. So I'm hanging on here, further back than I want to be. I always feel that somebody's going to pop, and it's going to be difficult for me to get around. So James Stevens comes up, and this is the decisive move at this point. He goes super hard to go by people. Greg gives up the ghost, and let's stop it right here. Let's take a look. We have Dean starting to move out around, and we got Marcelo here. Byron, as you can see, is slightly up the road, and I'll let the tape continue, and the decisive move is right here. I'm kind of blocked a little bit, still trying to recover. Dean doesn't go hard here. He kind of soft pedals and makes it more difficult for Marcelo and I to go around after Greg has pretty much given up. But we continue. So I miss Marcelo's wheel as I was a little bit stale here, and that move by James Stevens, and like I said before, throwing the cat amongst the pigeons with new people, new tactics, and you never know what's going to happen. So at this point, it looks like it's game over for yours truly. Joel comes around, who hasn't been on his bike in a long time, but he is happy to at least participate and do some of the work. I'm a little disappointed that Dean didn't try earlier, but hey, it is what it is. But now Dean comes through to give us a hand, and in my opinion, a little too hard. And you see, I have to reach down and pull almost 500 watts to stay on Joel's wheel. Those are matches that are being burned, but it was a good effort. And notice the shadow difference between Joel and Dean there. Dean gave him a little bit of a break, but not as much as could have been if he had gone by a little bit slower and maybe pulled a little bit longer. So on that little hill, we're making some cut recovery there and some ground on them. It looks like Greg has kind of recovered, trying to come back. Dean is going to be able to latch on. Joel's doing a really good job up there, and I'm pretty much like barely hanging on at this point. And you can see my wattages are high. That little dig that I tried to keep these people in check might have been a little too much for me at this point. And with the new people there, I just got surprised. So I'm struggling here. Sitting behind Joel, and normally people have checked out to the point where you can't see them, but they're dangling up the road. Strong men. So I take over. Greg is still here. I think it's like four of us now. I think it might be Dean up front, like making us proud here, keeping us honest, keeping us in tow, keeping us in check. But I'm totally gassed. And you can see it looks like Greg is too. Greg reached down deep. Um, Unfortunately, he couldn't cover that move that Byron had, and I don't know if I could have either, but I would have tried a little bit more. But like, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. So Jared has blown up after trying to stay with the big men. Maybe a little bit too much hubris here for the young buck. Maybe he should have been waiting to see what it is. But flexing himself out there, he finds out that TFR is no joke. And I would welcome more TTH men to come down and see what this is all about. So still going hard, still chasing. Dean's doing a wonderful job. He pulled a little hard. I had a hard time staying on his wheel, but and then of course he slows up a little bit, and there they are. They're just up there. I'm surprised because normally when people check out, you can't even see them. But there's almost hope here. Dean has a lot of energy, and I'm not certain why he didn't cover that move of Byron's like earlier on when Greg basically just gave up because he's clearly strong enough to do that. So at this point, it's Joel, Greg, and I. I'm pretty much gassed. I didn't have anything to do any pulling. Clearly, Joel does. Greg jumps on the wheel, and I am barely staying attached here. Once again, over 400 watts to stay in contention. And this kind of shows how those little moves, those little pulls to go around people, if you're not actually rotating at a constant speed, everybody's burning matches to stay on. And here is the surprise of the day. Byron, big dog, Berseril, dropped from the selection. What is going on here? And you can see at this point, he is probably wishing that he had chosen a different bike. But the look on his face, look at the look of exasperation, and he's digging down deep. This is determination right here to stay with the group and stay in contention. Yeah, make no mistake, that's no act there. He is really trying hard. So Greg goes hard, and I pull around Joel. Greg, he's got this acceleration that it's difficult to stay in when people make these moves like this. I'm okay with it, but I would have much rather had like a steadier tempo, especially when we're not going to catch anybody. You can see a hard deceleration. He gave up. I'm taking over, and there we see the people behind. Byron, he's there, but it's not easy. Joel's here, making it look easy, head cocked to the side a little bit. Greg popped after that strong effort. Like I said, maybe a little too strong. So Byron takes over. I'm spent at this point. I know that we're basically fighting for fourth, fifth, and sixth place, and I know I don't deserve a fourth, so I'm gonna just sit in here and just enjoy the rest of the ride, put this one in the bank, keep that fitness, and use this opportunity as a mental test to stay in contention. Because this was hard. Look at my wattage, like 340, 200. I'm hurting, and the heart rate at 126. That's probably closer to 170 something. So it's like 50 beats low. So I'm working super hard here. Nice little echelon. Byron's hanging on, and you can see how Byron's head drops. This is an indication that he is no longer as comfortable as he was before. This is a man who has dug deep, deep to come back and at least save some face and come back to fight another day. I wonder if in the next few weeks we'll see that same bike, or will he upgrade to something? So I let these people go. Nice pat on the back by Byron on Joel, congratulating him on that one. That was a hard one, folks. That was a hard one. It's going to be a tough year. This is one of the few times where I have not made the selection. The only time I've seen Byron not make the selection. Normally, Joel has always made the selection. But with the influence of Mr. Stevens changed the course of the event. Well done, guys. Well done. Nice job, Matthew, there. Got to give it up. Um, nice job, Mr. Stevens. And Marcelo has catapulted himself into GC. So we'll see now how things are going to come in subsequent weeks. But I'm pretty excited. And as always, a good time was had by all. See Dean and Greg there making good showings. Yeah, that was an exciting one. Very good. Very well done, folks. Very well done. You make this exciting to talk about something a little different. And looking forward to seeing everybody next week. I think I'm going to have to maybe upgrade, get some new wheels, get myself a new helmet, some aero stuff, get myself, the 30 watts, everybody's there, and become seriously hard again. Anyway, thanks, guys. Until next time. Bye.